Shalom. All praises to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Today, we're going to discuss about Sabbath day, right? Because the Christian and Catholic Church teaches us that the Sabbath day is Sunday, when in fact it is actually Saturday, because Saturday means rest. If you go to the Spanish word, it says Sabado. If you go to Greek word, it says Sabbaton, right? So it just grows into this word called Saturday right now. So Saturday is the seventh day. It is the day of rest, right? We can find that in Exodus chapter 28. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Holy means to set apart. So you have to set apart yourselves from the world. The world teaches that you can work on a Sabbath day, right? The world teaches the law is done away with, right? So you don't have to keep this law. However, that is not true, and we will discuss that in a few videos, right? Verse 9, 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day, what is that again? Is the Sabbath of the Lord. It's the day of rest, right? In it thou shalt not do any work, you, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, manservant, maidservant, cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Right? So that is the Sabbath day, right? It is a law. We must take heed to the words of the Most High rather than men, because this is the eight commandments of the Lord, right? Because if you don't keep it, like this is Exodus chapter 35 and verse 2. 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day shall be shall be to you a holy day. It is a set apart day. So you need to set apart yourself from the world which works on that day. A Sabbath of rest to the Lord. Whatsoever doeth work therein shall be put to death, right? So this is in the old times, right? We are of course under grace, but that doesn't mean we continue in sin. Remember, First John 3 and 4 is the transgression of sin, right? Remember that First John 3 and 4, sin is the transgression of the law. Therefore, the law exists, right? So we must keep this, right? Now, first, when is the time of the Sabbath, right? So we begin the Sabbath on a Friday evening, right? Because we already established that Saturday is the Sabbath day. Now, when does it begin? You can find that in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13 and verse 19. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut. Should be shut. So there it is, right? So Friday sundown is the beginning of the Sabbath, right? Because what time does the sun goes down? It's 6 p.m., right? So by 6 p.m., that's when the Sabbath begins, right? But we need to observe. Sometimes it's not about the time, but it's about the sundown. So when it becomes dark, that's the Sabbath, right? 6 o'clock will come, but it's still not the Sabbath, right? Because it needs to be sundown, began to be dark just before the Sabbath, right? So that's the Sabbath, right? We have to keep it. We need to be refreshed, study, in the book of Luke. Now we establish what is the Sabbath. Now what can we do on a Sabbath, right? This is the book of Luke, chapter 4 and verse 16. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom is practice. So this is a practice on a Sabbath. He went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day. This is Christ. And stood up to read, right? So you can read on a Sabbath. The light in the world, the light in the word of the Most High, right? Verse 31, and came down to Capernaum, a city of Galilee, and taught them on the Sabbath days, right? So you can teach on the Sabbath days, preach, spread the word, because that's the word, because the word cleanses our mind, right? Psalms chapter 119, verse 9. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed or listening thereto according to thy word, right? These are the words of the Most High, right? We have to read it, right? It's been written by the prophets, right? But it's the will of the Most High that this was written, right? So we can meditate on the word so that we can be cleansed and be what? Refreshed, right? Because when the Most High rested on that day, he was refreshed. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 31 and verse 17. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. Right? The Most High wants us to be refreshed. The Most High wants us to be spiritually refreshed, right? By taking heed unto the word, right? When you take a water, you get refreshed, right? Your body gets refreshed, right? That's how our minds get refreshed, by taking heed unto the word. So we have to keep the word, keep the Sabbath, and live, right?